No. Quit stealing from the top cake. That's a cake you're supposed to take.
It's her cake, it's her cake.
Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Molly, and today is Mother's Day. So I thought I would do something really special for my mom. Today, I'm gonna be making her very favorite cake. It's kind of a cheat box mix kind of thing, but it's really, really good. And so I'm gonna share how I make that cake and a few little tips on how to decorate it. So here's what you're gonna need. Duncan Hines classic white cake mix. And yes, Duncan Hines. It is the best. Now this part doesn't matter so much, but you're gonna want instant vanilla pudding. And the one thing that's very important with this, I don't care if you get store brand or a name brand, make sure it's instant. You want the instant pudding. You're gonna need some spray. You're gonna need canola oil. We're also gonna need eggs, and depending, here is my little cheat recipe. And this is actually from a local store in Memphis that is all about cake decorating and candy making, which is really amazing. It's called Mary Carter Decorating Center. And they do have a website, and I'm gonna link that right here. Well, I'll put that website in the description below, and I'll also include the whole recipe in the description below, as well as where I got some of these good things. Per their recipe, which they shared this with everybody, so it's not like I'm sharing some secret recipe that only a few are supposed to have. They call it the Duncan Hines texture recipe because, again, Duncan Hines is the best. 1 small instant vanilla pudding, the 4 serving size. Half a cup of oil, 1 cup of water, 3 eggs if you use the white mix, or 4 eggs if you're using the yellow or the chocolate mix. And what this does, and then you're gonna just mix it and bake it per the instructions on the back of the cake mix. Now, what's so great about this cake is that it gives it kind of a pound cake texture without the dryness of a pound cake. So it's a really moist, amazing cake, but it has a little bit more density to it so that it's great for layering. Although I've found that it's really great for just cupcakes. It is, if you've ever been to my house, or if you've ever been to one of my parties, or if you've ever been in my child's class at school, then you have had one of my cupcakes. So, these cupcakes are so good, so good. So we're gonna start mixing all of this up. The other thing that we're gonna need, because today, this is my mom's absolute favorite, and so I thought it would be fun to do something a little special since it is Mother's Day. We're gonna be doing a layered cake, which means you're gonna need 2 cake pans. These are the 7x2. We're gonna need 2 of these, and then 2 of the 5x2 cake pans. And again, I'll link those in the description so you know which ones I'm getting. And you're gonna need some parchment paper as well. So we're gonna mix this up and get those in our cake pans so that we can get them in the oven, because I really wanna get to the decorating part, but we gotta cook the things first. Okay, so I already have 1 box of our mix in there. So now I'm gonna add a second box of mix, because this is gonna be a lot of cake that I'm making, so you're gonna need to double the recipe. All right, so now we need to add our 2 things of pudding mix. Hey Owen, would you get me a 1/2 cup measuring, please? Thank you, sir. All right, so we've got 2 boxes of cake mix in there, and we've got 2 boxes of the instant vanilla pudding mix in there. Now we're going to add our oil. So since we're doubling our recipe, we're gonna do 1 cup of oil. And then we're gonna do 2 cups of water. gonna do 2 cups of water. And the next thing we're gonna do, because I did the white mix, we're gonna need 6 eggs in this. And I always like to do my eggs into a separate container before I add them to my mix. That way, if any shells do happen to get in there, I haven't ruined the mix, I can just get them out of the container. I also, does anybody else drop their eggshells into their empty box that they're using? Okay, so while this mixes up, we're going to preheat the oven. Okay, so now that that is blended up, what we're gonna do is we need to cut our parchment, because you're gonna want to put a little circle of parchment into your pan. So all I'm gonna do, let's see if we can get 2 out of this. Yes, okay, perfect. So I'm gonna be able to get 2 circles. So 1 for the big pan and 1 for the little pan out of 1 parchment sheet, which is nice. And I'm just gonna take a pencil and I'm gonna trace around this. And then you're gonna be cutting to the inside of your pencil marks. 1, because nobody wants lead in their cake. And 2, because you wanna make sure that it really fits in the inside of this circle. So now that I have my parchment circles, I just need to stick them in, and they fit perfectly. And so I'm going to spray my pans now with a little bit of non-stick cooking spray. So now I just need to put the batter into my pans. One little tip for you, before you place these into the oven, tap them down. It's gonna level it out and it's going to pop those air bubbles. So my box said to do an 8-inch pan for 26 to 31 minutes. So these are actually 7-inch pans. So what I'm gonna be doing is, you technically be adding a little bit more time because it's gonna go, they're gonna be a little deeper. I am going to set these to 28 minutes and then we're gonna check them. So, we're gonna put these in and then we're gonna check on them in about, we'll check on them about 28 minutes. Okay, so while the cake is baking, I'm gonna show you some of the other things we're gonna be using. So for our icing, I have made buttercream icing before and it is delicious, but it's really easy to go to the store and buy icing. And this icing is so good, so good. It's amazing, and it is my mom's absolute favorite, and since this is Mother's Day and this cake is for her, I'm gonna be using, this is Cellabake's Buttercream Premium Icing in Whimsical White. And this is gonna be where we're gonna start. So I'm actually gonna be doing a white cake with some decorations in some different colors. And I am better at, I'm more of a fondant decorator. Like I like to do cakes with fondant so they're nice and smooth and I can build, because remember, I'm that sculptural, 3-dimensional kind of art person. So I like to build flowers out of fondant and I like to make ruffles on cakes. And I'll show you some cakes that I've done that have had ruffles on them and they're beautiful, but I don't do a lot of icing decorating. So we're gonna be trying this today. We'll see how it goes. If it's terrible, it's okay because the cake is gonna be delicious. So nobody really cares what it's gonna look like. In addition to our icing, you're gonna need some piping bags, or you can use a gallon Ziploc bag would be fine. They do sometimes tend to bust, so just heads up on that. So some piping bags. I've got These are actually little special rubber bands that go around your piping bag, and they are amazing because they have this little, let's see if you can see them. They look like this, and so when they go around your pipe bag, they just hook like this, and they stay, which is really nice because then it's very easy to then get them off. And I use these all the time, and I'll link these below. We've got some tips and some little attachments. This is just a little smoothing, little scraper to make our icing nice and smooth. I have a cake tester and little releaser thing, which is really nice for when we're getting our cake out of our pan. I cannot find my spreaders. I have not seen them since we moved here, so I don't know what has happened to them, but we'll see. I have some food coloring, some larger tips. Then I do have a collection of some different piping tips that we're going to be trying out today. So this is going to be fun. I'm excited. Since we are doing a layered cake, I do have this awesome little saw thing. This, you see the little serrated edges? It has different levels. So if you can see here, there's little lines, and you can actually twist it, and then you just adjust it to how tall or how thick your cake is. And what it does is you put it flat on a surface and go across, and it will evenly trim off your cake so that your cake is going to be the same height, which is really nice when you're trying to build a layer cake, because if it's not the same height, it's going to be wonky. You do not want a wonky cake. And then finally, because we're doing a layer cake, you're going to need something to put in the inside for some stability. So I've got these are just like little plastic tubes that we're going to be using. Some people will use thick, like some thick straws, you know, like a smoothie straw, we'll use those. And those are fine. I just don't feel that those are stable enough, so I'm gonna use this, and I just use a serrated knife to cut them off once I've measured to see how deep they're gonna go. You can buy this icing in different colors. I just always go with white and then do my own color mixing. So the first one that I have, this is the AmeriColor icing. I got it in mauve. So it's just a really pretty pink. And this is a gel icing. And it mixes really well with this. Or it's a gel food coloring, and it mixes really well with the icing. And that was a whole lot of food coloring I just stuck in there. So here is our, see if you can, here's our Dusty Rose. It's kind of hard to tell, but that is Dusty Rose. All right, always going to put this little guy on first, because what this allows you to do is this part, it's two little parts. This little part is actually going to go inside the bag, and then this part will go over the bag. And what that's going to allow you to do is change out your tips so that you don't have to start a new bag just to get a different piping tip. You're just going to cut the end of your bag. Just make sure that you don't cut. You can always cut more, you can't go backwards. So always start with a little, push it in, see if it's enough, and then you can cut more. Okay, so you're just going to cut the tip off this. Okay, our little oven is beeping at us now. So one thing about this cake mix is it does tend to make the cakes a little bit darker, I have found, but they are so delicious. All right, let's do our little cake tester. Came out smooth. If you don't have a cake tester, you can always get a toothpick or like a skewer, shish kebab, some little bamboo skewer, and that would work just fine. So I'm gonna take these out. These are good. We're gonna take these out and let them cool, and we're gonna practice using some of our new tips so we can see how those look. And then we're going to slide this little part down into it. Okay, so while my cakes are cooling, I am going to load up my little piping bag. So what I'm gonna do is, this was a little tip that I got, and I don't even remember where I got it, but it was awesome, is to take your piping bag and to stick it into a cup of some sort and to roll the tops of it over the cup. Otherwise you end up with icing all over the top, and that's kind of a pain. So I just roll the icing bag. So there's probably about 2 inches of the icing bag hanging down. And then you can go down here and just open it up so that you can stick your icing in here. It stands up, your hands can be free, and you don't have to worry about getting icing everywhere, because then you can just stick this straight down in here and scrape. And trying to do this while holding the bag open is a pain, and this is just so much better. So then all I do is pull this up, and then you kind of just do that, and it'll fill up the bag. Now I'm going to come up to the top of my bag, and I'm just going to press down so that I get as much icing down as possible. And then I'm going to fold this in on itself and use one of my little handy rubber bands. It's just going to hook onto itself like that. And now my icing bag is ready to go. Okay, so I want to show you what a couple of these tips do. So this is just number 6. It's just a round. See if you can see it. It's just the round tip. Tip is great to write with, or to just kind of do almost like little berries. I really like this one. And you can draw with it as well. So when I'm doing a floral design, I really like the plain little round tip, because I'll put either like a little cluster together, or I'll kind of spread them out and make it look like little berries, but I really like it. All right, so then we also have, this is 352, and this is the, it's from that same set, and you see that little V cut into that? This makes great leaves. So if you just keep the V side kind of facing up and just squeeze, you can kind of get that little ripple effect. Or if you turn it sideways so that the V, or you see it looks like just a point, if you turn sideways so that the V's are on either side, what this is going to do is this is actually going to make leaves. And then you just release the pressure, like so you release the squeeze as you're pulling away, and that's going to help make the leaves like that. So this is tip 30, and you can kind of see it's like a little star, but it's curved in. So see how it kind of bends in towards the center. What this one looks like is you can either go just squeeze straight out like that to make a little flower, or you can squeeze and let it build, and then you can swirl it around and then release, and that's going to make a little rosette like that. So this is tip 199, and you're going to see it's another star one, but look, it's like, let me see. You see how tiny those little teeth are, and they're straight out. They don't curve in. So for this one, if you just go straight down, it's going to look like that, kind of like a little shell. Or what's great with this one is that you can kind of keep a little border going with it, and it's really, really pretty. So this is tip 105, and this one, you see how the little teeth are? Kind kind of reminds me of like a castle. This one is really neat. Now this one, when you just go straight down, it looks like this. Or you can kind of have it running like that. So these are going to be the tips that I'm using today. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 5 different tips that I'm going to be using to create my mom's Mother's Day cake. All of these tips came in this kit. There's so many more tips in this kit that I won't be using today. But this kit also comes with a flour nail. If you've ever seen someone make a flour out of icing, a lot of times what they're doing with the flour nail is they're building it onto this, and you can easily twist it. And you just put cut a little piece of parchment and stick that to it with some icing, and then you can squeeze it. And then you take it off and let it dry for a little bit, and then you can put that onto your cake. So it's nice that these come with 2 of them. The kit also comes with 1 coupling, but I have extras just because 1 is definitely not gonna cut it. So my cakes are cooling right now, and once the pan is cool enough to touch and like hold comfortably, then that means it'll be ready to take the cake out. So our cakes are nice and cool. Got a little bit of a collapse, but nothing terrible because I'm gonna trim these up, so it won't matter. So what I like about this little cake tester is, you see it's got this little edge. It works really well to release your cake from the sides. I'm just going to turn this over, and you should feel it come off into your hand. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so we've got 1 cake here. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. Oh, it smells so good. All right, so we've got 1 cake out. And what I'm gonna do is, you can kind of see where the cake starts to puff up. I'm gonna cut that off. And the reason I'm going to I'm gonna actually cut a lot of mine off to go straight across. Sometimes you can just kind of level it out and thin it out, but this has sunken quite a bit, so I'm gonna cut mine off. All right, so I'm just setting my little cutter so I know that I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn that. And guys, this is the easiest thing ever. So it stays on your countertop. Like, you leave it flat, otherwise you're not gonna get a nice flat cut. And then all you're going to do is do a sawing motion back and forth, like this. And look, it's perfect, perfectly flat. Everything is level. And then I have this big chunk right here that I'm gonna eat. So I'm just putting a little bit of icing down onto this plate. So this is my little cake board, and I buy this from that same place, Mary Carter's. And so I just put some icing down here so that my cake doesn't slide all around. And what I'm gonna do, just kind of brush off any extra little crumbs. I'm gonna take this and just center it the best I can on my plate. Okay. Looks, there we go, that looks better. Okay. And then I'm going to add a layer of icing to the middle because I'm going to be putting the second layer on top. And so all I'm going to do is just take my icing bag and just go around the edge like this. And now at this point, if you were going to fill it with something, that's where you would add your filling. You kind of create almost like a little well so that your filling doesn't spill out. But since I'm not actually going to be filling it with anything other than just buttercream, I'm just going to do A nice swirl of buttercream there. And then I'm going to add this layer. And what I did is I'm going to turn this upside down so that the two cut edges, like the raw edges, are going to be in the middle. So now that looks like that. So at this point in the decorating, I'm going to take my parchment, and all I've done is I folded it in half, fold it in half again, and then I just cut it to where it's like a triangle. And then I'm going to open these up, okay, so that I end up with a bunch of triangles. Now, the reason you're going to need triangles is you're going to need to be able to slide this parchment underneath your cake. Otherwise, when you're icing it, you're going to get it all over your cake board. And you don't want to do that. See those crumbs that are already starting to kind of come off? You want to keep this cake board nice and clean. So what you're going to do is take the fat side of that triangle and just lift that cake up just a little bit. And we're just going to layer these. So they kind of go around, make our way around the cake. So that when we're done icing, we pull the parchment out and it's going to leave our cake board nice and clean. Okay, so I had a little bit of a panic. My Lazy Susan that I have, you hear it? It's like not working anymore. I don't know what has happened. But then I had an idea. You know, I have a Lazy Susan in my microwave. So I have this little glass plate and then I have this little circle that's underneath it. It's like, I wonder if that would work. And guess what, folks? Welcome to my Lazy Susan. It works. I have just created a little cheat Lazy Susan, and it is so much smoother than my other one was. Look at this. Okay, I'm so impressed with myself. And by the way, you're welcome for a cheap way of getting a Lazy Susan. Now, this is the part where I would be using my little spatula to do this, but I don't know what has happened to my spatula since we moved. So I'm gonna be doing my crumb coat with a butter knife, which is totally fine. If you're gonna be doing this, you're just gonna wanna use the flat edge. It's a little bit easier. So I am just going to do a little swirl of icing going around, and then we'll work this down on the edges. And so your crumb coat is meant to be the messy coat. It's meant to be where you get little bits of the cake in it, and it's okay. It's just what happens. And then you put the real coat on it after that. And so I'm just going to work this icing, and you'll notice that the icing kind of goes to the edge and then starts to kind of fall over the edge. And that's exactly what we want it to do. Oh, there you go. Now you can really see why it gets its name, the crumb coat. Now I'm going to take this cake plate and move this off to the side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this little board. So this board is going to be what my cake, my little bitty cake is going to go on. So we're just going to put a little icing on that so he won't move around. And for this one, I'm not worried about icing getting on this because it doesn't matter. So we'll just place this one on here. And then this cake board is actually bigger than what I need it to be for that cake, but because of the design that I'm going to do, I don't need to cut it to the exact size because I'm going to be doing a lot of texture around this. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Now if you were going to be doing, like if I was doing, for example, a fondant, or if I was going to be doing a really sleek cake, then I would cut this board down to be the exact size of my cake. but I don't need to worry about that. This. All right. I have put the base onto my Lazy Susan, and I'm just gonna very carefully, because I'm actually not gonna do another coat of icing on this because I'm gonna be piping all the icing on. I'm just gonna very gently pull my little parchment triangles off so that all of this mess right here on the parchment instead of on my board. I got a few crumbs, but not the big mess that the icing leaves. The next thing we need to do is we need to get some support into this cake. So I am just going to kind of get an idea of how deep I need these to go. Just make a little mark. Okay, so now I can see where that's gonna go. And I am just going to cut. I'll put this little mat under it so I don't cut my countertop. I am just going to cut right where that little line was. Bring this back over. And you're just going to press these straight down into your cake. And that's going to be just enough support for this little guy. And now that I have these here, I'm going to just take a big old glob of icing and this is going to act as our glue so that our little guy can just rest right on top. Like that. So here is my super messy cake. So here are the colors that I'm going to go with. And I'm just going to ice all over the cake and just make it look like it's just covered in flowers. And what's fun about this is that you can just keep changing out the tips and have different looking flowers going around. One thing I have found when really just doing anything in art, but especially when you're working around something, it's oftentimes easier to kind of do things in threes and then kind of move on. It makes it kind of keeps things balanced. Icing will hide a multitude of sins. Okay, so I keep changing my tips on my icing bags so I can get a variety of different looks, because I don't want it to be all the same patterns going around. Another tip that I have for you is make sure that your house is very cold while you're doing this, because I didn't realize that our air conditioner had been turned off and was wondering why my icing was starting to get very, very soft. And now my cake is really leaning. So just check that. You definitely do not want your icing to start just falling off of your cake. It would not be good. So here she is, my crazy wonky cake, and my mom is headed over right now, so you guys get to watch and see her reaction to her cake. So my mom's gonna kill me because I didn't tell her she's gonna be on camera. Hey! Sorry, I'm filming. Wait, you got right here. I have a surprise. Okay? Shh, hush, hush, hush. Shh, hush. It's okay, it's okay.
Pop will be in a minute.
Should we wait for him for the surprise? Well, I'm just gonna get it.
Okay. Ours are pretty.
Thank you. My voice got this for me.
She's filming, so come in and you get in the film too.
Happy Mother's Day to you. Pop, you're on video. Sorry. I'll have you sign it print. Oh, he walked away.
Oh, I thought it was good.
Oh, Molly. Gorgeous.
It's a little wonky. It's gonna taste good. It weighs about 5 million pounds. Here, I won't make you hold it because it weighs a ton.
Wonky. No, I like it.
Okay. It really is a little wonky.
It's fine.
But it was made with love.
Thank you.
So, Pop-Pop's trying out the new couch.
My Molly.
Yes.
My Molly the baker.
Now you have to share with the boys though, because they've been eyeing it since
okay.
I made it.
I'm ready.
Okay, well hold on. Actually, here, we can finish the video and then we can eat.
Oh, okay.
So guys, this is it. I made the cake. She's gonna eat it. We're all gonna eat it. It's really delicious. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. And for all you moms out there, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. He's stealing icing.
I like the icing.
I know you like the icing. That's why I made your cake, because it's your favorite.
Oh, buttercream. Mm.
All right, Pop, here's your cake. Got it over there. Sugar's already started. I was like, let me film you eating your cake.
Just me.
Yeah, you gotta turn around though, so we're not looking at your booty.
Thank you.
There you go. All right.
I got extra icing.
Fork's too long.
The fork's too long. I'm so sorry. Would you like a new fork, Papa?
No, I just stuck the side of my mouth.
I get the olive icing.
Mm.
Man, that's good, Mom. You gotta go into business.
No, I do not need another business, but thank you.
Buttercream is the best.
Plus, I like making cakes for other people that I know and love because they know and love me, and they're not going to judge me if their cake's a little wonky.
Yeah.
Wonky's good.
But we took the top off of it so that y'all can take the top part home, Dad.
Okay.
So y'all can, if Shug will quit eating it.
This is Mother's Day.
Goodness, that's all icing.
No.
Shug, quit stealing from the top cake. That's the cake you're supposed to take.
It's her cake. It's her cake.
That's right. You can do whatever you want.